Welcome to our monthly Goleta Wrap meeting where we focus on concerns from the broader Goleta community. I'm Landon Rank, Director of Programs at SB Act, and this is a partnership with the City of Goleta as a part of our broader South County efforts to address homelessness. So I'm joined by Chuck Flax, the Homeless Services Coordinator from the city. Just a few general announcements before we get started. I wanted to start. I don't share the slides super often, but I think it's good to just do a refresher once in a while. Reminder to everybody that you'll hear us using what we call people first language. Like to talk about people experiencing homelessness rather than homeless people. Just it's a good way for us to keep in mind that these are people that we're talking about. Um, it's also interesting. Some people ask about whether we should really be calling people homeless when they actually are from Santa Barbara County. The statistics show that the more than 75% of those who are experiencing homelessness here in SB County were living here before they lost housing. So in many ways, these people are home. They just don't have houses. But for the sake of ease, we are going to keep using that homeless nomenclature. It's just important to bring up. We do talk about mental health and substance abuse quite a bit when we're talking about some of these issues. It's important to note that in many cases, mental health and substance abuse tend to be effects rather than causes of homelessness. That's not always the case, of course, but it is important just as we have these conversations to note that it is often something that results from the trauma of being homeless. And then finally, just a reminder, there's not one monolithic experience of homelessness. There are lots of people in lots of different situations. And so when we talk about homelessness, it's really easy to think of one picture in our minds. It might look like the guy that's on the screen right there. But it really does vary quite a bit, as you'll hear on these calls. So that's my soapbox. Any questions about that? All right. So a couple of dates to put on everyone's calendar. One is that we will be having a South County all-call meeting next Tuesday at noon at the Goleta Community Center. I'll talk about that in a second. I also wanted to just note for everyone that World Homeless Day is October 10th every year. So this year it's on a Friday. We will be having some kind of uh, campaign happening. I've been working with Chuck and a few others on this, so stay tuned. But it's just something to note and recognize. And then finally, our next meeting as the Goleta Community Concerns Group will be on the 27th of October at noon. So we hope you can join us again then. But as it regards this meeting on Tuesday, the all-call meeting, so as I mentioned, I'll go back to that slide, but Goleta is a part of this broader South County coalition to address homelessness. So you can see there's a lot of different providers and partners here, including the cities of Carpinteria and Santa Barbara and the county. You've got a lot of nonprofits that are involved that are addressing homelessness, some business groups, and as well as some people with lived experience of homelessness. And we are currently working on a 3-year strategic plan with 4 different goals. There's really brief summaries here, but we'll be talking more about this at the upcoming meeting. So on Tuesday of next week, we'll be meeting at the Goleta Community Center at noon. Going to be reviewing kind of some of our baseline data of what we're trying to improve on over the next 3 years. A really big focus for us is trying to help people who either just recently became homeless or who are on the cusp of becoming homeless. We're trying to do more and more prevention and diversion of those people because we know that's a really cost-effective solution. So we encourage you to come out. It's a good time for us to just talk a little bit about what some solutions are and then ways that we can all sort of band together as a community to address these issues throughout the entire South County region. I will put the link in the chat window as well, but there's also a QR code on the screen. Any questions about that? All right. Those are my announcements. I'm going to hand it to Chuck to share from the city of Goleta.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to start by giving an update on our progress and some of the work that's been going on in a more of a data form. Let's see. So sharing. How's that? Can people see my screen?
There it is. Yes.
Okay. So this is the report for August. We lag a month because we have to collect all the data and pick up the new folks that come through the coordinated entry system. And I present things kind of in quarterly form or sometimes annually. But you can see since June, there's been a decline in the overall number of homeless people in Goleta, pretty significant decline. And what that is really the result of is kind of a new, it's not really new, but we're now, if someone is just, we can't find them, we can't locate them for 90 days, we haven't heard anything, and people, our outreach folks haven't made contact, then we eliminate them from the tracking list. Some of the people on here are not enrolled in the system, but we at least know who they are and where they are. So these are the identified homeless folks. And then you can see the biggest decline that we've seen is the number of people in shelter. And I think that to some extent that's a result of people moving out into permanent housing, because you see the encampment numbers and the vehicle numbers have stayed pretty significant. Um, they also could have just left shelter. We don't, in some cases, we don't know what their status is. In terms of vehicles, there's a lot of fluctuation, but the general trend is that we're seeing an increase in the overall number of vehicles in Goleta. And these are identified by New Beginnings Counseling Center. These are the vehicles that they, who are experts, have identified that these are vehicles with people living in them. And I always point out that, in August, there were 215 vehicles in the city of Goleta, but there were only 40 people who'd identified as homeless. So that's one of the more complicated components of what we're working with here, is that we have a large number of people living in vehicles but are not engaging with homeless services. Part of CityNet's progress and what they're working on is to try to connect more with people living in vehicles. New Beginnings is working on their large grant to connect with people living in vehicles. So it's an ongoing outreach process, a little bit similar to how we were with encampments, 6-7 years ago. In terms of what I call the flow, or our general movement of people experiencing homelessness, you see what I think is a very positive trend. So we've been housing pretty consistently the number of people, and the number of new people enrolled in the coordinated entry system and the number of people housed is tracking pretty closely. So if you look at these numbers, over the last quarter, 27 people were newly identified and 21 people were housed. These aren't the same people, but the idea is, are we helping people find solutions? And in Goleta, we're doing pretty well. This is even before we're soon to get 125 new units of permanent supportive housing in the Goleta area. One is outside the city limits, but it's right on the border. It's the 25 unit Patterson Point project. And then the Heritage Ridge project, which is scheduled probably to open in 2027, will be 100 units. So we're looking at a pretty good supply of permanent supportive housing for Goleta that I hope will make a pretty significant difference. But we're doing well. It's good to show that. In terms of our special populations, so of the 119 people that we've identified, 53 or 45% are seniors, 6 are transition age youth, 18 to 24, and only 1 is a veteran now. So I'm aware of a couple more veterans. One has left the area, the other, I think they both maybe have left the area. And this guy that we're working with he's pretty close to housing. So we may reach a point where we don't have any veteran homelessness in Goleta. Chronic homelessness continues to be our biggest population. And this is the definition of chronic homelessness. Often people who are chronically homeless are very difficult to move into housing for a whole variety of reasons. And in Goleta, what I've noticed is that there's, because we have small numbers overall, but there's a handful of people who are just not interested in housing, even though we keep offering all kinds of opportunities and solutions to them. And sometimes that's the case with people who are chronically homeless, is that, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of history, and it's difficult to gain the trust and move forward. But I always give a lot of kudos to our outreach teams who are on these calls, because they've done a tremendous amount of work to make contact with folks and connect with people. In terms of income, we have quite a range of people who have income. The sad part of this slide is that 51% of people have no income at all, and I don't know how they make ends meet in any way. Another 8% have 500 or less dollars. So that's frustrating and sad. The good news is that 13% have over $2,000. And in fact, 45% of the income that people are generating in Goleta is from earned income. So some percentage, some nice percentage of our folks who are homeless in Goleta can work, are working, earning some money. And Randy and I, before the call, we were talking about Alma Harmson's program, Partners in Housing Solutions, almost actually on the call, Randy. I don't know if you saw her come on. But I'm referring people with decent incomes, maybe not necessarily enough to afford rent, but they certainly with some rental assistance and maybe figuring out how they can get roommates and things like that, there are ways to help those folks get housed, and that's what Alma's group is doing. And they have a contract with the city of Goleta to house 25 people over the next 3 years. So we're working with them and referring them to folks. So that's my report. Yeah, I'm still not seeing Landon the close button. I don't know if you can close the screen.
Yes, I'll do it. Give me a second to find the button.
And are there any questions about the data? Okay. In terms of what we're observing in Goleta, we've been hearing a lot from our neighbors about people living in vehicles on public streets, particularly the larger vehicles cause concern for folks. And so the city of Goleta is considering options that may increase the amount of enforcement on folks that are in fact living in our public streets. And so October 7th, there will be a presentation to the city council from staff, not so much from me, but from our senior staff and our city attorney about the different options that the city of Goleta might consider in terms of enforcement. I will say that our city council has been on record and very clear that they are not interested in criminalizing homelessness because it doesn't help. It doesn't help people get into housing. It only puts people further in the hole. But at the same time, we're hearing from a lot of concerned residents about the number of vehicles on our public streets with people seeming to be living in them. So it's a difficult issue. It's one that's growing all across the county, and it's one that we're working on. I'm more than happy to take suggestions and ideas from folks. But yeah, that's kind of where we are in terms of the other issues around the city. We'll hear from our outreach folks about hotspots or areas that they're concerned about. That's my report.
Thank you, Chuck. Questions for Chuck? If I can just add context also to the vehicular homelessness discussion, I've mentioned this before on this call, but this is a heated topic that I'm having on other cities' calls as well right now. The city of Santa Barbara, there's a lot of very frustrated residents right now dealing with vehicular encampments in neighborhoods in the city of Santa Barbara. It's a regional issue throughout the whole state. Our county did just vote, our county continuum of care did vote to conduct a formal study of people experiencing vehicular homelessness in 2026, so that we'll hopefully have a better picture of kind of what is going on, who are the people that are living in their vehicles in our communities, so that we can figure out how better to address the issue. So this is something that kind of everyone is grappling with right now. All right. If there's no questions, we'll go ahead and do some check-ins from our different service providers. So why don't we start with Cora with the safe parking team?
Happy Monday. So yes, we are all grappling with the vehicular homelessness thing, and it is disheartening sometimes because we're out there and housing people, and more cars just keep coming. And I love the fact that Landon, you mentioned that study that's going to happen in 2026 because we're putting together our little questionnaire that we want to start sort of, just getting a sense. And just in regards to the general check-in, we're still out there. We're still doing the outreach that we're always doing. We've got, a lot of outreach workers right now with the SURF program, which probably accounts for the uptick in numbers, but we're out there and we just keep knocking on, windows and trying to make those connections and trying to, make safe parking look appealing and get people enrolled in the program. But some of the what's really evident right now is so many people are coming from other places, and so we really want to figure out why people. And it's on our question. It's on some of these things are on our intake form, our enrollment form for safe parking, but we just want to sort of start gathering that data, like what specifically why are you in Santa Barbara? What brought you here? A lot of it's the weather, but sometimes people have friends or a job or school or employment, or just trying to find out what that information is. And then what was their most recent cause of homelessness is the other kind of questions that we want to, work on. So we have our list of, questions that we're trying to gather and just get that, see if we can find any, I don't know. We're always just looking for a solution. We're always trying to figure out something better or a better way to connect with people or try to make our program more enticing to people. That's the other question. Why haven't you connected to safe parking? Because we're actively engaged in this process, as everyone knows. But that's about all I got for now.
Thank you, Cora. Appreciate all that your team is doing. Let's go to the Good Samaritan ARPA team.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jose with Good Samaritan ARPA Outreach. Some of the areas we visited last week were downtown, State Street, Upper State Street. We had a couple community concerns in IV and Goleta. We also visited Alameda Park, Ortega Park, the administration building. Number of clients engaged last week were 35. There was no new enrollments. We continue to support our clients with getting them document ready, setting them with appointments, doctor's appointments. We got one client document ready, and we did 3 referrals to behavioral wellness last week. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Let's go to the Good Samaritan Surf team focused on waterways.
Hi there, this is Fernando with Surf 2. Last week, we were able to encounter San Jose Creek, Agwell Creek, Maria Ignacio Creek, Teco Lido Creek, the Tascadero Creek, and IV. Fulcrum has been updated with detailed pictures. We also engaged with 25 of our clients last week, and we continue to actively work with our caseload. That's it for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Fernando. Ellen with CityNet.
Hi, good morning. Outreach pretty standard. We spent a lot of time at Elwood, Dearborn, the train tracks that run parallel to Old Town itself, the marketplace. We make those rounds kind of multiple times every day. We made a little bit of progress last week with some clients with Social Security, but it does take about an hour on the phone just to get an appointment with Social Security. So a lot of just sitting, but progress nonetheless. General trend amongst clients is still, if they have income, it's about 900, which isn't enough for a room out here, or they want to get a job, they want to make income, but they need to be in a shelter to do that. And the shelters are so impacted that that's been difficult, or they have such severe mental health concerns that we're just trying to get them to a place where they will be comfortable and agree to treatment to go that route. That's kind of where we're at right now. We did spend a lot of time with some folks in vehicles who can't, for whatever reason, access like safe parking or Surf 3. Still just building rapport with them, though.
Thank you, Ellen. Since Ellen brought up the shelter capacity question too, just wanted to note you may have seen in the news about the Path Shelter, and there's going to be a significant change there. The city of Santa Barbara is looking to purchase that property, and they have expressed that the city of Santa Barbara is intending to have a provider take over as the day that Path is leaving, or with some overlap, so that there would be no loss of shelter beds in the interim. meaning those people would be able to stay. There wouldn't be 80 people that are just instantly on the street overnight. We're still kind of waiting to see how that all works out. I know the city of Goleta has specific beds there as well. But that is just a really important thing for all of us to keep our eyes on because that is, that impacts our whole region, obviously. All right, let's go to, I've already checked in with all our outreach providers. Hilda, any updates from Buena Tierra you wanted to share?
Hi, happy Monday, everyone. No update on our end. Still serving the clients that we have on site now. Everyone's been doing really well so far and just waiting for new residents to come on in.
Thanks, Hilda. We did have Alma join us from Partners in Housing Solutions. I think most people on the call are familiar, but for anybody who might be watching the recording, Alma, do you have capacity? Are you able to just share briefly about what you do with Partners in Housing Solutions?
Sure, good morning. Happy to be here. Yeah, so Partners in Housing Solutions works countywide to house people experiencing homelessness and working with those at risk to find and retain permanent housing through a network of rental property owners. A few months back, actually almost going on a year, we've contracted with the city of Goleta to help folks enter permanent housing. And we're currently working with, I believe, 5 households to do just that. And we have a South County location and a South County specific housing specialist working with these folks. And we're constantly looking for other people that we can assist. I think one of the biggest barriers is the same thing that we all experience is that even when someone has income, it's not enough to get them connected. So we're definitely thinking outside the box and looking for ways of working with the people that are already enrolled to get them connected to permanent housing so that they could sustain it on their own once we're done.
Thank you, Alma. I believe we've checked in with everyone. I don't know, Mary, if you just want to share a brief update about your meal.
Yes, we had a little confusion last week because of a big sale in Isla Vista, but it worked out, thank the Lord. And I do want to thank the CityNet folks for coming again. One thing for us, consistency is so important. So we try to, be at exactly the same place at exactly the same time every Tuesday. So that's what our goal is, and almost all the time it works. So we're thankful for that.
Thanks, Mary. We were just talking at the beginning of this call that there are some possible rainstorms predicted for tomorrow. So just a heads up to everyone. Deputy Warden is, I believe, out of town, as is Officer Gaston. So we don't have updates from them this week. So why don't we go ahead and we'll open it up for community members if there's any areas of concern or questions that you wanted to raise. And it's all right if not. Go ahead, Randy.
Hey, there's just two, I guess, notices. There's a lady in a like a gray SUV that's been sleeping at the end of Ward Drive, and I just thought I'd pass that along, maybe for Cora or someone. And I don't know if anybody's spoken to her, but I just thought I'd mention that. And also, last night and today, I saw a fellow on the bicycle path that goes from Goleta Beach and winds around and then goes over a footbridge and goes to the airport. There's a fellow there that's slowly building up a big presence that somebody might want to visit. Is that appropriate?
So that would be the waterway.
Waterway team. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder is it Fernando or that with the Surf 2 team?
Yeah, what specific area was this?
He's on the bicycle path that goes from Goleta Beach that sort of winds under the bridge and then goes to a footbridge that goes on to the airport, and is in between the under the bridge and the footbridge, and has a very high stacked shopping cart and presence there.
Okay, yeah, we can check that out.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
And we'll do the same, Randy. Thank you.
We do regularly talk about Ward as one of our kind of hotspots, so appreciate you bringing it up. Anything else from the community? Go ahead, Mary.
There's also a shopping cart full of stuff on Hollister near Santa Barbara Shores Drive. That's been there since Friday probably. And I know I could report it to the City of Goleta thing, but I just wondered if somebody's in harm's way or why somebody didn't come back to get their stuff.
So, Ellen, that would be, I think, a CityNet question. So it's Hollister, and what's the cross street?
Santa Barbara Shores Drive.
Santa Barbara Shores, and it's on the. Is it on the
beach
mountain
side,
side?
ocean side? No,
Ocean
ocean
side.
side.
Okay.
We can try to check that out also. Just a heads up to everyone. Rachel's last day is on Wednesday, so we are a little bit short-staffed also.
Thanks, Fernando.
Thanks for telling us. Is she going to grad school? Is that right?
She, I believe, got a county job.
Oh, okay. We're almost wrapping things up here, Jaime. I don't know if you had here we just got a chat. Linda, can you see that?
Yes, I can. So, question from Kathy. And Kathy, are you able to share kind of the general location so that we can try to address this issue? Sounds like there's an individual who may be causing some or in some distress and causing some concern in the neighborhood.
Are you able to unmute, Kathy, or you want to type it?
Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Great. Yes, the location is right by Elwood Elementary School. We have the Eucalyptus Grove condos, and we've been experiencing, and that's why I'm on, just to get some insight on what we can do at our complex. There's 179 units, 13 buildings, and we've been having trouble on a regular basis. Every morning, actually. There's a young man who jumps our fence, and throughout the complex, he walks through it yelling profanities, and that's how we start our day. And this has become a regular thing, and I think people are just afraid to confront him, so we don't. And by the time anyone calls the police, he's gone. But we also noticed that encampments along the railroad tracks where we live, there's been more and more smoke that we can smell. And in the past, about a year ago, we had a fire. One of the eucalyptus trees caught on fire, and so those things are worrying the homeowners here on what we can do. We've called the fire department, and they're wonderful. They come right away. They never. We apologize for having to call them, and they say, no, we want you to, we want you guys to be safe. And so we'll check it out. So they've been great. But, we completely understand the issues with, people that are along the railroad tracks. But we also, I'm on here just to ask everybody's help on what we can do. That would be great.
Kathy, are you part of your homeowners association, or are you just calling, on behalf of yourself?
No, I'm actually part of our association.
Okay, great.
I'm the secretary.
Oh,
and,
excellent.
Our manager actually gave me the link to this Zoom call.
Very good.
Because we were, trying to handle this as a group to help the homeowners here.
I think it would be useful for maybe you and I to have a conversation offline.
Sure.
And I can give you a lot of information about what the city of Goleta has been doing and advise you specifically about what's going on at your complex.
That would be
Um,
great.
can you see the chat? I'm gonna just put my phone number in the chat. You can give me a
Sure.
call. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds great. I can see the chat. Let me know when you send your
Yeah.
number. Thank you. Thank you
Mhm.
very much.
Yeah, we're glad you're here, Kathy. This is a great spot to chat about these kind of issues and just to find out who the right people are to talk to.
Yeah.
And I
That's
will say in regards to the folks on the railroad tracks, just for your information, many of the folks on here have heard about this.
yeah.
So this is a problem that's been ongoing for at least a decade, maybe longer. It's, the railroad tracks are private property, but they're rarely policed. So in other words, they're not, until recently, the sheriffs didn't have the authority to go on the tracks and enforce trespassing. And so many folks who are experiencing homelessness um, have have learned that they can spend time on the tracks in relative safety. Things have changed over the last number of years here in Goleta. Uh, our outreach teams have been very effective at enrolling, dozens and dozens of folks into homeless services and getting them into shelter, getting them into housing. But the camps kind of continue. So we also have a good relationship with Union Pacific, who comes to these calls pretty regularly. They do regular sweeps of encampments. They actually put up a very kind of impenetrable fence on Elwood Station Road, where people were coming through, and that may be actually, unfortunately, why somebody may be coming through your complex, is that it's the fencing in that area used to be pretty easily broken through, and now it's less so. So it's harder for people who are living where you're describing to actually come, into the city, which sounds like it might be a good thing, but these folks need to get food, they need to get water, so it's a little bit challenging for them. But our outreach folks continue to meet with them and work with them and try to get them to change their situation. So it's kind of an ongoing issue. If you ever do smell smoke, don't ever hesitate to call the fire department. They do have the authority to fight fires there. If you witness crimes of any kind, our sheriffs are very responsive, and they do now have the authority to go on the tracks if they're if a crime is taking place, if somebody calls them. Um, and then I'll talk to you more privately about your complex and specifically.
That sounds great. Thank you very much. I
Yeah,
appreciate your
yeah.
time.
Thanks for being here, Kathy.
And that's the same neighborhood as where I just described that grocery cart that's been there since Friday. So it could belong to the same individual.
Does it look like personal items and not trash, Mary, that you observed?
There's some bigger items like
Mm,
it looks like a cover to something, and yeah, it's not just a pile of trash. There
yeah,
are some things in there that look like but they may well have been taken out of a trash can somewhere. I don't know. I haven't looked real closely, but I
yeah.
could walk up and do that. Yeah.
Any other questions from the community? Chuck or Jaime, anything else either of you wanted to raise while you're here?
Yeah, so I was trying to listen in for the last 30 minutes or so. So it kept getting dropped, but I was able to hear Chuck's slides for a while and then the first couple of callers, and then now that I'm back in the office, I have a clear connection. So thanks everyone for the updates. This has been super helpful. I haven't been on one of these for a while, but keep up the good work. That's all I got to say.
It's good to
And
see
then
you.
Jaime, do you have anything you wanted to? I mentioned that there's going to be an October 7th presentation to council on uh, options for enforcement. Are you prepared to say anything about that? Or
Yeah, we're still developing it. We're actually meeting with the sheriff's office this afternoon and others, but we want to come prepared with a slew of different options. And then obviously recommendations that we as staff think will be most beneficial. But like any other, public meeting, the public is welcome to attend and encouraged to attend if there's an item that you feel strongly about. You don't necessarily have to just be a resident. You could be a provider. You could be whatever. If you want to tune in and hear, I think our council values public input um, in almost every shape and size. So I'd encourage you to consider attending. If not, I'm sure there'll be kind of a debrief after of what happened or didn't happen. This may be a 1-2 kind of step where things get introduced. There's a lot of conversation. Maybe the council decides not to necessarily make a decision that night, but bring it back. They may be prepared to make a decision that night. So we want to make sure we're as well prepared and that the council has the information they need to make an informed decision, whether it's at that meeting or at a future meeting. So just another plug would be it.
Thank you, Jaime.
Chuck, anything else from your end?
No, I do. I guess I want to reemphasize October 10th as World Homelessness Day, and thank you to SBAC for organizing an acknowledgement of that day. If you pay attention at all to the state and national news, there's quite a bit of negative rhetoric about people experiencing homelessness, about people experiencing mental health issues. And I think we who work in this field need to continue to remind people about people's humanity, about people's specific needs, and ways that we can support them. And one of our formerly homeless advisors came up with the tagline, kindness can change lives. And I personally believe that very much. And many of you on this call are at the front lines of spreading kindness, spreading hope, spreading love to our community. And, I want to continue to thank you for that work.
Well, thanks, Chuck. I think that's as good a note as any to end on today. So we'll say thank you all. Hopefully see you next Tuesday. I did put the RSVP link in the chat window, but otherwise our next Goleta community meeting will be on the 27th of October. So thanks, everybody. Take care.